Hey, what's going on internet? Josh Noel from PremiumBeat.com, and in this After Effects tutorial we're going to create some text messages that will be composited with our live action footage. Thank you for joining us today, and if you want to follow along with this tutorial step by step, I encourage you to download these project files. The link will be on our website at PremiumBeat.com. But let's go ahead and just get started. Let's create a new composition by clicking on the film strip icon down here, and we'll just call this one tutorial. And I'm using 1920 by 1080 and 23.976 frames per second, and click OK. So I have some video, and if I want, I can just go ahead and bring this into our composition right now, but you don't have to have any video to do this tutorial. I'm just going to be really focusing on creating text messages, but let's just go ahead and hide this for now, and we'll turn it on a little bit later. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go here to the top, and we're going to click over the rectangle tool, and we're going to select the rounded rectangle tool. And basically, we're just going to draw out a box. Pretty simple. And what we'll do is maybe set this to like a light gray. So let's go ahead and zoom in here, and let's create the sort of pointer that's going to be coming from our sender. So let's grab the pen tool, and basically all we're going to do is kind of click a point here, and we'll click another point down here, but hold down shift until you see these anchor points, and we're going to kind of draw out this nice curve here. And what I'm going to do now is hold down Alt on my keyboard, and I'm just going to click that vertice and bring it in by a little bit. And then I'm going to come over here and click another point, maybe just right around here, and hold down shift again and drag out these vertices. And now we'll kind of sort of have like this sort of check mark, if you will, and hold down Alt again, bring this vertice in, and then we'll just close this up. So now we'll kind of have this object right here. And if we just come here, maybe select shape 1, we can also turn off the mask by clicking this toggle mask button right down here. And this will make it a little bit easier to drag this around, but we can come here and kind of position this where we see fit. And now we kind of have that sort of direction of where the speech is coming from, and that looks pretty good. So now we can come here and rename this layer to left, text box. So now let's go to our text title tool, and we'll just click over our box and type out our text. I'm just going to paste my text right in here. And now we can kind of shape up the box to our text. And the one thing to keep in mind, especially if you're going for more of, I guess, an iPhone sort of text message style, is that there's only typically the default settings only allow for several words per line. So I want to go more than 5 words per line here. And then go ahead and resize your box depending on kind of where things are supposed to be at. The best way to resize our box here is to go back in the shape layer, go into the rectangle one, go into the rectangle path, and break the link for size and just scrunch it up by a little bit. And then we can continue just to move this over and find really the best spot for this. And then maybe we can also scrunch up the y-axis as well and just really get that dialed in there for perfection. And then just reapply where we want to put our shape. And that should be good. And for future reference here, what we can do, so we don't have to readjust our shape down here, so make sure rectangle 1 is selected, and grab the pan behind tool, and this little anchor point right here, go ahead and drag this down all the way to the bottom. If you hold down shift, it'll just be aligned in place. And then if we go into, say, the transform settings for rectangle 1 and break the link for scale, we'll be able to just scale this up from the top without actually having to affect our sort of indicator right here. So that's pretty interesting, and that'll come in handy a little bit later. Let's go back to the text style tool. Come here and maybe type out who's sending this text message. Maybe it's our good friend Caleb Ward. And let's do the 2 forward slashes here and maybe type out the time of day. It could be whatever. And that looks pretty decent. And of course, maybe make this, this font a little bit lighter than your main font over here. And maybe we can just bring this down by a touch so it's not as big, and we'll just reposition this. And by the way, I'm using the font Helvetica. This is Helvetica Regular and Helvetica Light for the text I just created. Okay, so now we're pretty much done with our left text box. Let's come here and select all of our text box elements and duplicate it. Bring them to the top. And we'll just come over here and we'll offset it for our, our point of view text messages. And of course, we can just select our text box. Maybe we'll rename it to right text box. Go to the top here, and we can change this color to like a light blue or whatever, and click OK. And then let's go back to our text style tool and maybe change the text color to white so that stands out a little bit better. And now we can type out our next line of text, and I'll just paste that right into here. And now we can maybe just bring this text down and, go into our right text box, go into the contents, go into rectangle 1, transform, and we can just scale this down, and boom, there we have it. It's perfectly in place. Maybe bring down our text, and then of course, change the text, name to your character, or whoever's supposed to be sending out the text. And of course, this is optional. You can put a lot more detail into this, or none at all. It all depends on what you're trying to go for. And then let's come here and just bring this back up into position. And the only thing we need to do now is just change this indicator here. So go back into the shape layer for the right text box, go into the contents, go into the shape 1, go into the transform shape 1, break the link for scale, and set the X number here to negative. So now it's going to be completely flipped on this side. Make sure the shape 1's the only thing that's selected, and just reposition that to maybe right there. So now that's looking pretty good. Now we kind of have it flipped, and we're ready to go and continue to go with this. So now what I suggest doing is pre-composing these layers. So let's come here, select our right box text layers, and go up to Layer, Pre-Compose, and we'll call this one Right Box 1, and then grab our left text box elements, pre-compose that, and call it Left Box 1. Perfect. And now let's come here, turn our footage back on. I'm going to start compositing this together, and we can make sure maybe both layers are selected. Bring down the scale by a little bit, depending on where you need to position this. And we'll put this maybe right over here for my footage. And let's go ahead and make some of these elements transparent. And as we can see, our white text up here is a little bit small, so let's go ahead and change that as well. So let's go into maybe Left Box 1. Let's go into our our actual box here. Hit T on your keyboard for opacity, and bring this down to maybe like 75%. So it'll be a little bit transparent. Make sure your top text is selected, and go to Effect, Perspective, Drop Shadow. Now this is kind of optional. This depends on what type of footage you're working with, but let's set the distance down to maybe like 2 and set the opacity down to 75%. So now if we go back into our main comp here, and as you can see, everything's been blended together nicely, and we just got to reapply the same settings to our next right box. So we'll go right into there, bring down the opacity down to 75%, and we'll just go and apply that same drop shadow effect. So let's talk about animating this on. And if you're going for realism, technically text messages happen so fast you don't even see how they animate on. So let's go ahead and grab our first text box here at the top. Let's grab the pan behind tool right here, and let's just bring this to the actual, indicator right here in the middle or something like that. And we'll hit S on our keyboard for scale. We'll add a keyframe for scale. We'll move that keyframe forward in time just by a few frames, maybe by 3 or 4 frames, and then set the scale down to 0%. So now that box will animate on right from that anchor point. And we'll do the same exact thing for the right text box here. Maybe we'll go to a second or so, and we'll reposition that anchor point with the pan behind tool, which is right here at the top. And we'll go ahead and hit S on the keyboard for scale, redo these keyframes for our right text box, and set it down to 0%. Maybe we'll make our last keyframes here easy keyframes by hitting F9 on our keyboard. And we'll come here and select our last keyframe here, hit F9 on your keyboard for easy as, and that will kind of slow down the animation towards the end of our keyframe there and make things a little bit more smooth. So now let's say if we want to continue to build on this sort of scene, what is the best way to go about this so we don't actually have to recreate the wheel every single time here? So what I suggest doing, go into your project here. So let's go with Left Box 1 here, make sure it's selected, and go up to Edit, Duplicate, and let's double click this box. And we can come here and type in our next set of text, paste in my text, and bring this down by a little bit, and readjust the actual box like I did before. Go into the contents, the rectangle 1, go into the transform, and we'll just scale down the Y value here. Perfect. And then readjust maybe this entire box to come up a touch. So not so bad. Then we'll go back into our main tutorial here, and let's select the Left Box 1 here, and let's duplicate it, bring it to the top. So this part is very important. We need to make sure our box that we want to replace is selected, and hold down Alt on your keyboard, go to the project window here, and make sure to select Left Box 2. Hold down Alt the entire time while doing this, and just drag this right on top of Left Box 1. And you can see it just basically swapped it out, and all we need to do now is maybe hit P on our keyboard for position and just position this down So now we'll have our new box in here, and what's great about it is that it retains the same, affected parameters that we did in this main tutorial comp here. Just hit U on your keyboard to bring up the keyframes, and we'll bring our scale keyframes over to like 3 seconds or so. So now we have our 3 boxes in here, and that's looking pretty cool. So I added another text box in here, and let's say we want to continue to build this up and scroll it up. Let's go up to Layer, New, Null Object, and let's parent all of our text boxes to this null object. And let's say once this new text message comes on, and I'll just take a look at the scale keyframes here. Let's say we want this to scroll up right here at this point in time. Let's go to the null object, hit P on our keyboard for position, add a keyframe for position, go forward by a few frames, and we can just scale this entire thing up, position this entire thing up. Maybe make the last keyframe an easy as keyframe by hitting F9 on our keyboard. And now once that new text chat comes in there, this entire thing will continue to scroll up. So you can continue this entire animation process to go on for as long as you want. And if you were following along with this tutorial, this is what you should have gotten, something very similar to this. And I just challenge you guys to go ahead and create your own variation of this and make it work for what you're trying to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. For more tutorials, please be sure to check out our blog at premiumbeat.com. And if you're in the need for royalty-free music, we have a huge library full of great music for your projects. So if you have the time, I invite you to check us out at premiumbeat.com. And once again, thank you for watching this video, and this has been Joshua Noel from premiumbeat.com.